Hi there. Welcome back to Fluent English Journey. This is the place where we talk about important life topics while helping you improve your English, step by step, word by word. I'm really glad you're here today because we're going to talk about something we all feel at times, anger. Let me start by sharing a personal story. A few months ago, I had a very long and stressful day. I was tired, behind on my work, and hungry. Not a good combination, right? Then, out of nowhere, a friend called me and started complaining about something I had forgotten to do. My heart started beating faster. My voice got louder. I said something I didn't mean, and immediately I regretted it. Has that ever happened to you? Don't worry, you're not a bad person. Sometimes, anger just snaps inside us, and we react without thinking. That's what anger does. It can come when we least expect it. Anger is something everyone feels. It doesn't matter where you're from, how old you are, or what language you speak. Everyone gets angry sometimes. But here's the thing, many of us were never taught how to deal with it properly. Some people hide their anger inside. Others let it out in ways that hurt their relationships at work or at home. But anger isn't always bad. Sometimes it's a signal that something in our life isn't working. Sometimes it's the first step toward change. The key is learning how to understand it, manage it, and grow from it. In today's episode, we're not here to judge ourselves for feeling angry. Instead, we'll explore it calmly and honestly. We'll ask questions like, what is anger really? Why do we feel it? What happens when we ignore it? How can we handle it in a healthy way? This isn't just about avoiding fights or conflict. It's about learning more about ourselves, how we react, how we communicate, and how we can live with more peace and control. Before we start, I want you to think about something. Don't say it out loud. Just think quietly. When was the last time you felt angry? What made you angry? And most importantly, how did you respond? If you're listening to this podcast, that already shows something important. You want to improve. Not just your English, but also your mindset and emotional intelligence. That's something to feel proud of. Learning to manage anger isn't easy, but it's one of the most valuable skills you can have in life. So, take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's go through this topic together. By the end of this episode, you'll not only learn some useful English phrases, you'll also get some practical tools to understand yourself better. So, let's begin. What is anger? Now that we're ready to talk about anger, let's ask an important question. What is anger really? It might seem simple. We all know what it feels like. When we get angry, our bodies react. Our muscles tighten, our hearts beat faster. Our voices may get louder. But even though anger is familiar, most of us don't really think about it or try to understand it. At its core, anger is just a normal emotional response. It usually happens when something feels wrong, unfair, or frustrating. Sometimes, anger happens when we feel threatened. Maybe someone lied to you. Maybe someone didn't respect your time. Maybe you worked very hard on something and still failed. In those moments, your brain notices a kind of danger, not always physical, sometimes emotional, and it reacts. That reaction is anger. It's your mind's way of saying, something is not okay. Pay attention. Like happiness or sadness, anger itself is not bad. It's just an emotion, and emotions are natural. They help us understand our world and our needs. The real problem is what we do with anger. Some people explode when they feel angry and hurt others. Some keep anger inside until it makes them sick or depressed. Some pretend it doesn't exist. But none of these responses really help in the long term. Did you know that anger can show up in different ways? It doesn't always look the same. Sometimes, anger is like fire, quick and hot. You get angry suddenly, maybe yell or cry, and then it passes just as fast. This is called a short burst of anger. It usually happens in surprising situations, like when someone cuts you off in traffic or says something offensive. This type of anger can feel very strong but doesn't last long. Other times, anger is quiet but stays inside for a long time. You don't yell or shout, but you carry it like a heavy bag for days, weeks, or even months. This is called resentment. Resentment usually grows slowly. Maybe someone keeps treating you unfairly, or maybe you never said how you really felt. Resentment can be dangerous because it changes the way we think and act, even if we don't notice it. It's like a slow poison that eats away at our peace. From a biological point of view, anger activates something called the fight or flight response. This is an ancient survival system in the brain. When the brain thinks there's danger, it prepares your body to either fight or run away. Your muscles get tight. Your breathing changes. Your heart beats faster. Long ago, this helped our ancestors survive real threats, like wild animals. But today, most of our dangers are emotional: stress at work, disrespect in relationships, or fear of failure. Even though these threats are not physical, the body reacts in the same way. That's why we sometimes feel out of control when we're angry. Our brain is sending emergency signals. Now, here's a question to think about. Is anger always bad? At first, many people say yes. Anger is uncomfortable. It can cause problems. It can make people argue. But if we look deeper, anger also has a purpose. Sometimes anger shows that we care. It can push us to speak up, take action, and make changes. For example, if someone treats you unfairly, feeling angry might help you set a boundary or protect your self-respect. Anger can also show us our deepest values, like justice, honesty, or kindness, when we see those values being ignored. The key thing to remember is, anger is not meant to control us. It is meant to guide us. Think of anger like a warning light in a car. If the light comes on, it doesn't mean your car is broken forever. It just means something needs attention. If we ignore the light, things might get worse. But if we pay attention, understand the problem, and fix it, we are in a much better place. Anger works the same way. It's a signal, a guide to help us understand what needs attention in our life. So, today I want to encourage you to change the way you think about anger. Don't see it as something bad or shameful. See it as something human. Everyone feels anger. The difference is whether we use it as a tool or let it control us. In the next part of this episode, we will talk about anger management. We'll also look at where anger comes from, what triggers it, what sets it off, and why the same thing can make one person very angry but not bother someone else at all. There's a lot to explore, and it's all connected to how we see the world and ourselves. For now, take a moment to reflect. Think about your anger. Does it come out quickly, like an explosion? Or do you hold it inside and carry it silently? How does your body feel when you're angry? The more you understand your own anger patterns, the easier it becomes to take back control. Remember, you're doing great, not just in learning English, but also in your personal growth. Understanding anger isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware, honest, and willing to grow. What is anger management? Now, let's talk about something very important: anger management. You may have heard this term before, but what does it really mean? Anger management is not about never getting angry. That's impossible and actually not healthy. As we said before, anger is a natural emotion. It's part of being human. The real goal of anger management is to learn how to recognize your anger, understand it, and express it in a healthy way. It's about staying in control, not letting anger take over your actions, your words, or your life. Think of anger like fire. A small fire in the right place is useful. It gives light and warmth. But if the fire grows too big or gets out of control, it can burn everything around it. Anger management helps you keep the fire at the right level. It teaches you to respond instead of react. It gives you tools to stop and think before saying or doing something you might regret. Recognize the signs. The first step in anger management is noticing the signs. Everyone has physical signs when anger starts to rise. Maybe your heart beats faster, your hands shake, your face feels hot, or your voice gets louder. If you recognize these signs early, you can step back before anger becomes too strong. You can take a deep breath or even walk away for a moment. Communicate better. Another important part of anger management is learning to communicate clearly. Often we get angry because we don't feel understood, but shouting or blaming usually makes things worse. Instead, try to express your feelings calmly and clearly. This is called assertive communication. It is not passive, and it is not aggressive. It is confident and respectful. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," you could say, "I feel frustrated when I don't feel heard." This small change can make a big difference in how people respond. Solve problems. Anger management also means focusing on solutions, not just feelings. If something makes you angry again and again, ask yourself, what can I do about it? Sometimes you can change the situation. Other times you cannot. Sometimes, when we feel angry, we may need to change the way we think about it. This is where skills like stress management, positive thinking, and self-awareness become very helpful. Some people also use tools like journaling, meditation, or talking to a therapist to explore their anger more deeply. These methods help us understand where anger really comes from. Sometimes it comes from old experiences, past hurts, or limiting beliefs. Learning about these things can help us let go of the pain behind the anger. The more you understand yourself, the easier it becomes to manage your emotions. So, anger management is not just about staying calm. It's also about growing emotionally, becoming stronger, and building better relationships. Anger management is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. You might not get it right every time, but with time, awareness, and consistency, you will start to notice positive changes in your reactions, your communication, and how you feel inside when you face triggers. Why do we get angry? Earlier, we talked about what anger really is. We learned it is a normal emotion and can show up in different ways. Now, let's go a little deeper and ask, why do we get angry in the first place? The answer is not always simple. Sometimes we think we are angry because of one thing, but when we look closer, we find something deeper is happening. One of the most common reasons for anger is stress. When we are tired, overworked, or feeling overwhelmed, small problems can feel much bigger than they really are. Imagine this: you had a long day at work. Your boss gave you more tasks than you can finish. You skipped lunch. You're stuck in traffic. Then someone cuts in front of you without signaling. Boom, you explode. You might yell, honk, or even say something you don't mean. But deep down, you're not just angry about the car. You're angry because you are overwhelmed. The car was just the last straw, the final thing that pushed you over the edge. Another common reason for anger is fear. This might surprise you, but often anger hides fear underneath. For example, if someone you love is late coming home and they don't call, you might feel worried at first. But when they walk in the door, instead of saying, "I was worried about you," you might say, "Why didn't you call me?" That anger is covering the fear. It's often easier to show anger than to show fear, especially in relationships. Insecurity is another big reason for anger. When we don't feel confident in ourselves, we may react strongly to things that make us feel small, weak, or not good enough. For example, if someone criticizes your work or makes fun of your accent, you might feel angry right away. But the real feeling underneath might be insecurity, fear that you're not good enough. This fear can turn into frustration, which shows up as anger. That's why it's important to know what we believe about ourselves. When we don't feel strong inside, it's easy to get angry on the outside. Of course, There is also unfair treatment or injustice. This is something many people understand. When someone treats us badly, lies to us, or disrespects us, it's normal to feel angry. It is completely natural to feel angry. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, or missed out on a job you deserved, you probably know what that kind of anger feels like. It burns inside you. This type of anger often comes from a strong sense of right and wrong. When people break rules or act unfairly, we feel deeply upset. We also feel anger from setbacks. A setback is when something delays your progress or makes you feel like you're moving backward instead of forward. For example, you studied hard for a test but failed. You prepared well for a job interview but didn't get the job. At first, you may feel disappointed. But if the feeling grows, it can turn into anger at the situation, at other people, or even at yourself. Setbacks create frustration, and frustration is a close friend of anger. Here's something interesting. What makes one person angry might not affect someone else at all. This often comes from personal or cultural differences. In some cultures, being interrupted while talking is seen as very rude, and it can make people very angry. In other cultures, people interrupt each other all the time, and it's not a big deal. The same goes for body language, tone of voice, or being late. What one person finds disrespectful, another person may not even notice. Even within the same culture, people have different life experiences. Maybe someone grew up in a home where they were often blamed unfairly. As an adult, they may get angry very quickly when they feel blamed, even if it's not real. Another person may have been taught to stay quiet and never show emotions, so they keep their anger inside for a long time until it explodes one day. Let's look at a quick example we can all relate to. Imagine you are talking to someone and trying to explain your opinion. But before you finish, they interrupt you, not just once, but again and again. How do you feel? Annoyed? Disrespected? Angry? For some people, this is a major trigger, especially if they already feel like their voice is not heard in other parts of life. That's why it's so important to understand your own triggers, the things that push your emotional buttons. Take a moment and ask yourself, what usually makes you angry? Is it when people don't listen? When things feel unfair? When you are under too much pressure? Is it connected to past experiences or your sense of identity? The more clearly you understand your triggers, the better you can respond. You can pause, take a breath, and choose how to react instead of just exploding. This is the first step toward emotional strength and better communication. Remember, anger is not the enemy. But when we don't understand where it comes from, it becomes harder to control. In the next part of this episode, we will talk about healthy versus unhealthy anger. For now, just remember, every emotion has a story. Behind your anger, there is always something more. Be curious, be kind to yourself, and keep learning. Now, let's take a moment to talk about something very important: the difference between healthy and unhealthy anger. Yes, that's right. Not all anger is bad. Anger is a natural emotion, just like sadness, joy, or fear. In fact, anger can be helpful if we understand it and express it in a healthy way. The real problem is not the anger itself. The problem is what we do with it. What is healthy anger? Healthy anger is when we feel angry, but we choose how to respond. We don't explode or hurt others. Instead, we express our feelings clearly and respectfully. For example, I feel upset when I'm interrupted. I need a break right now. I'm getting frustrated. These responses help others understand your boundaries without turning the situation into a big fight. Healthy anger allows you to communicate clearly while keeping control of your emotions. What is unhealthy anger? Unhealthy anger happens when anger takes control of us. Sometimes we explode, yell, say hurtful things, or become aggressive. Other times we keep it inside, pretend everything is fine, but feel bitter for hours or days. In both cases, we are not really managing the emotion. We are either letting it out in a harmful way or pushing it down until it becomes resentment. Sometimes unhealthy anger is connected to deeper issues like perfectionism or wanting to control everything. Maybe things didn't go exactly as you planned, and you feel like you failed. Maybe someone acted in a way you didn't expect, and you feel disrespected. When we expect everything to be perfect or want to control every detail, it's easy to get angry over small things. Have you ever lost your temper over something small, only to realize later that the real reason was stress or pressure building up? There are also people who react quickly without thinking. This impulsive behavior makes anger dangerous. One angry word, one sharp message, or one big reaction can hurt a friendship or relationship. That's why we often hear phrases like, "Bite your tongue," "Stop yourself before saying something you might regret," "Take a step back," "Give yourself space before responding," "Cool off," "Calm down before you act or speak." How to keep anger healthy. Healthy anger is about awareness and simple strategies. Pause. When you feel the heat of anger, stop and take a few slow, deep breaths. This gives your brain time to calm your body. Name the emotion. Ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Frustration, fear, embarrassment. Just naming the emotion can reduce its power. Step outside yourself. Imagine looking at yourself from the outside. What would you tell a friend in this moment? Would you tell them to yell and break something? Or would you suggest they step away, cool off, and talk later? Often we know how to guide others, but we forget to guide ourselves. In the end, healthy anger is not about staying silent or pretending to be okay. It's about being honest, respectful, and aware. You can feel angry and still be kind. You can have strong emotions and still make thoughtful choices. When you feel angry, the first step is always to pause, breathe, name the emotion, and choose a better way to respond. Managing anger is not about being perfect. It's about being in control of your reaction, instead of letting your reaction control you. In the next part of this episode, we'll talk about what happens when we don't manage our anger, the cost of losing control, and the effects it can have on our relationships, work, and health. But for now, remember this. Anger does not have to control you. You can learn to control it, and that is a powerful skill. The cost of uncontrolled anger. We have talked about what anger is and what triggers it. Now, let's look at what happens when we don't manage it well. Let's be honest. Everyone has had moments when they blew up at someone. Maybe you lost your cool during a meeting, an argument, or even while talking to someone you care about. At that moment, it can feel like anger is controlling you, not the other way around. And when anger controls our actions, it often leads to problems. Sometimes we can fix the damage, but sometimes we cannot. Anger and relationships. Anger affects all kinds of relationships: partners, family, friends, or coworkers. When anger is left unchecked, it creates distance. Imagine yelling at someone you love. The words come out fast and may be harsh. You say things you don't really mean because you are upset. Then comes the silence, the heavy feeling afterward. Maybe they walk away, or maybe you do. Even if you apologize later, something changes. Trust is like paper. Once it is crumpled, it is hard to make smooth again. Think about this. Have you ever said something in anger that you later regretted? I know I have.
Most people have.
That's human. But if this happens too often, people start to feel unsafe around you. They may avoid conversations with you, stop sharing their feelings, walk on eggshells, trying not to upset you. Over time, uncontrolled anger pushes people away. And the sad part is, often all we really wanted was to feel heard or understood. Anger and work. Uncontrolled anger can also hurt your career. Think about a job interview or a team meeting. If you cannot handle criticism or pressure without reacting emotionally, it creates a negative impression. People may think you are difficult to work with or that you cannot control your emotions. Losing your temper at work, yelling, slamming doors, sending angry emails can ruin professional opportunities. Even if you are very skilled, your attitude can become a problem. Nobody wants to work with someone who is always angry. Over time, this can lead to isolation. You might wonder why people keep their distance or why promotions pass you by. The truth is, people remember how you made them feel, especially when those feelings were negative. And in today's world, emotional intelligence is just as important as technical skills. The physical cost of anger. Anger does not just affect relationships or work, it also affects your health. When you lose your cool, your body goes into fight or flight mode. Your heart beats faster. Your muscles tense up. Your blood pressure rises. If this happens often, it can cause serious health problems over time. Your body is not meant to stay in this state for long periods. Chronic anger can lead to heart problems, high blood pressure, tension, headaches, stress-related illnesses. In short, uncontrolled anger has a high cost. It can hurt your relationships, your career, and your health. But the good news is, anger can be managed. By learning to recognize it, pause, breathe, and respond in a healthy way, you can reduce the damage and even use anger as a guide to improve your life. When anger takes over, it doesn't just affect your mind. It affects your body too. When you are angry, your heart beats faster and your muscles tense up. Over time, this stress can lead to serious health problems like heart disease, headaches, trouble sleeping, a weak immune system. Anger can leave you tired, tense, and even sick. Anger can also lead to dangerous behavior. People sometimes drive recklessly, drink too much, say or do things they normally wouldn't. Once those actions are done, you cannot take them back. A single angry moment can hurt a friendship and a job, or even change your life. That's why it is so important to stop and think before reacting. A few deep breaths now can save you a lot of pain later. Let me share a personal example. A few years ago, I had an argument with a close friend. I was frustrated, tired, and felt misunderstood. I didn't listen. I responded with anger. I blew up over something small and said things that hurt them. We didn't talk for months. Even though we later forgave each other, our friendship was never quite the same. This taught me a big lesson. Controlling your anger means protecting something much more valuable, your connection with others. I'm not saying you should never feel angry. That's not realistic. Anger is natural. But when it becomes your first reaction every time you feel hurt, stressed, or disrespected, it becomes dangerous. It controls you instead of you controlling it. That's when it causes real damage, not just to others, but to yourself too. The good news is we can learn to manage anger. We can train ourselves to recognize the early signs, pause and take a breath, respond in better ways. It takes practice, of course, just like learning English. You won't get it perfect in one day, but with time and awareness, it becomes easier. Next time you feel anger rising, ask yourself, is this really worth it? Will I still care tomorrow? Will my words build or break something important? Taking a moment to reflect can make the difference between losing control and growing stronger. Mindset shift. Anger as a messenger. So far, we've talked about the negative effects of uncontrolled anger, how it can hurt relationships, careers, and health. Now, I want to introduce a different idea. Something that might surprise you. What if I told you that anger isn't always the enemy? That instead of hiding it or pushing it away, we can actually learn something from it. Anger is not just noise or fire, it's also a message. It's a signal that something important is happening inside you. Maybe a boundary has been crossed. Maybe you feel disrespected. Maybe something in your life is not working the way it should. When we look at anger with self-awareness, we can start to understand what it's trying to tell us. This is a mindset shift. Your mindset is the way you think about something. Changing your mindset can completely change how you deal with anger. Instead of thinking, I shouldn't feel this way, you can ask, why do I feel this way? This small change in thinking opens the door to emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and understand how others feel too. Sometimes, we get angry at someone for interrupting us, maybe during a conversation or a meeting. On the surface, it may look like a small problem, but if you stop and think, the anger might be telling you something deeper. Maybe you didn't feel respected. Maybe you've been feeling invisible in other parts of your life too. When you pay attention to your anger, it can help you discover what really matters to you. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. In fact, anger can sometimes help us grow. For example, imagine you keep feeling angry at work because your time is not respected. People keep giving you more tasks without asking. If you ignore your anger, it just builds inside. But if you listen to it, you might realize that it's time to set a boundary, speak up, and protect your time and energy. In this way, anger becomes a teacher. It shows you where something needs to change. This idea is not new. Many ancient cultures have studied anger. In Buddhism, anger is not seen as evil. It is seen as powerful energy. The goal is not to destroy it, but to understand it. Anger can become a pathway to awareness if we are willing to look closely. In Stoic philosophy, ancient thinkers believed that anger comes from wanting things to be different than they are. By accepting what we cannot control, we can feel peace instead of rage. One quote I like is from the Stoic philosopher Seneca. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. This means that when you feel anger rising, you should pause, take a breath, and listen to what your anger is trying to say. Don't just react, reflect. Anger is not a bad emotion. It is a powerful one. It only becomes harmful when we ignore it or let it explode. If we take the time to explore anger with curiosity and honesty, it can become a tool for better communication, stronger relationships, deeper understanding of ourselves. Next time you feel your anger rising, instead of pushing it down or exploding, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What am I really feeling beneath the surface? These questions can open the door to healing and help you become a calmer, wiser version of yourself. Practical strategies to manage anger. Understanding your anger is a powerful first step, but now let's talk about how to manage it in real life. Even if we understand why we are angry, it doesn't always stop us from snapping at someone, raising our voice, saying something we'll later regret. That's why having simple, practical strategies can make a big difference. One of the most powerful and simple tools is breathing. When we're angry, our body goes into fight or flight mode. This means our heart beats faster, our muscles get tense, our mind starts racing. But by slowing down our breath, we send a message to the brain. It's okay. I'm safe. Slowing your breath helps you calm your body, clear your mind, and respond instead of react. One very effective technique to manage anger is called box breathing. It works like this. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Hold again for 4 seconds. Repeat this cycle a few times. You'll be surprised how quickly it can calm your nervous system. This is not just a relaxation trick. It's a real technique that many athletes, soldiers, and therapists use to stay calm under pressure. Another useful strategy is the pause before react rule. It sounds simple, but it can be hard to do. The idea is to create a short space, even just a few seconds, between feeling angry and reacting. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of immediately honking or shouting, take a breath and ask yourself, is this worth my peace? If your partner forgets something important, pause and ask, What's really going on here? This short pause gives your self-control a chance to speak before your emotions take over. Journaling is another great technique, especially if you often feel long-lasting anger or stress. Writing things down helps you understand your patterns, see situations more clearly. For example, you might notice that you always get angry after long meetings or when you skip meals. This awareness helps you prepare in advance or change habits. You don't need to write a long diary every day. Just a few lines about what you felt, what happened, what you wish you had done differently. Sometimes, the best choice is to walk away. This doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, it can be a sign of strength. If you feel like you're about to explode, it's okay to say, "I need a few minutes to cool down." Step out, take a short walk, get some fresh air, and give your body and mind a break. Returning later with a clearer head is always better than losing control in the moment. Let me share a quick story. A friend of mine works in a high-stress office. She used to get angry at small things, a colleague interrupting her, a rude client, even bad coffee in the break room. She started keeping a small notebook in her bag. Every time she felt upset, she wrote 1 or 2 lines. Just doing that helped her
Slow down.
think clearly. Often smile at how small the problem actually was. She said, "It doesn't fix everything, but it gives me back my power, the power to choose how I respond." This is the kind of control we're aiming for. Not perfection, just progress. Remember, progress, not perfection. You won't get it right every time. You might still lose your cool, say something you didn't mean, and that's okay. What matters is that you are trying and learning. These strategies aren't magic. They require consistency, doing them again and again, even if it feels like nothing is changing. Over time, these small habits build emotional strength. Think of it like training a muscle. Going to the gym once won't make you strong overnight. Going regularly with small efforts each time will make you stronger. Managing anger works the same way. Each time you pause instead of shouting, breathe instead of blaming, reflect instead of reacting. You are training your emotional muscles and becoming stronger, calmer, and wiser. So, what is one technique you can try today? Maybe it's deep breathing during a stressful moment. Maybe it's writing a few thoughts in your journal tonight. Or maybe it's just noticing when you start to feel irritated and giving yourself permission to pause. Whatever it is, remember, the goal isn't to never feel anger again. The goal is to respond to it in a healthier and wiser way. Simple step-by-step technique to manage anger. You don't need to be a monk or a religious scholar to manage anger. These are things anyone can try, whether you're at home, at work, or walking down the street. Step 1, awareness. First, recognize that you're starting to get angry. Maybe your heart beats faster. Maybe your face feels hot. Maybe your voice starts to rise. The earlier you notice it, the easier it is to manage. Step 2, pause. This is sometimes the hardest part, especially when emotions are strong. Even one deep breath can help. You don't have to fix the problem right away. You just need to slow down. Some teachings, like in Islam, suggest simple actions.
Sit down.
Wash your face. Move away from the situation if you can. Step 3, name your feeling. Instead of just saying, "I'm angry," try to be more specific. I feel disrespected. I feel frustrated. I feel scared. Anger is often covering another emotion, like hurt or sadness. Naming the real feeling gives you more control. Step 4, reflection. Ask yourself, why am I angry right now? What happened before this? What am I really reacting to? These questions help you look beneath the surface. Is it about this one moment or something bigger? Maybe past experiences or stress? Step 5, choice. This is where your power really is. Once you understand your anger, you can choose how to respond.
Speak calmly.
Walk away. Wait until you've cooled down. Remember, you are not your anger. You are the one choosing how to deal with it. Step 6. Release. After you've managed the situation, it's important to let it go. Holding on to anger, especially silently, can turn into bitterness. You can
Talk about it.
write it down, pray, meditate, or take a walk. Letting go doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means giving yourself peace. Step 7. Practice. Managing anger is like training a muscle. You won't get it perfect every time, and that's okay. The goal is progress, not perfection. Every time you pause instead of shouting, breathe instead of reacting, reflect instead of exploding, you are growing stronger and wiser. Remember, religion, culture, and science all agree. When we control our anger, we create space for wisdom, connection, and peace. Next time you feel anger rising, remember, you are not weak for feeling angry. You are strong if you can stop, breathe, and choose your response. In the next part of this episode, we'll explore how to repair the damage when anger has already hurt someone or something. Because let's be honest, we all make mistakes. The good news is that healing is possible, and it often starts with just one honest step. Conversation. What gets in the way of managing anger? Now that we've talked about strategies to manage anger, you might be thinking, if these tools are so simple, why don't we all use them? Why do we still lose our temper, shut down, or hold grudges for days? That's a very important question. And the truth is, managing anger isn't just about knowing how to do it. It's also about understanding what gets in the way. 1. Perfectionism. One big internal challenge is perfectionism, the belief that we always have to get everything right, thinking that making mistakes is bad, feeling that being angry is wrong. Have you ever thought, I shouldn't feel this way? Why can't I stay calm like others? You're not alone. Perfectionism makes us feel like we are failing every time we get upset. But anger is normal. Nobody gets it right all the time. Trying to be perfect can actually make anger worse. It builds pressure inside. And when that pressure becomes too much, it often explodes in ways we don't expect. 2. Self-doubt. Another obstacle is self-doubt. Sometimes we feel like we don't have the right to speak up. Maybe we grew up in a home where expressing emotions was discouraged. Or maybe we were told, directly or indirectly, that being angry means we're difficult. Instead of expressing anger in healthy ways, we push it down. We pretend everything is okay. But that anger doesn't disappear. It often turns into
Stress.
sadness, physical pain. Self-doubt makes us question our own emotions. Is this really important? Am I overreacting? This constant questioning makes it harder to trust ourselves and harder to respond in healthy, confident ways. 3. Shame. Shame is another barrier. It's the deep feeling that something is wrong with us because we feel angry. Shame doesn't just tell us we did something bad. It tells us we are bad. Shame can be strong if you were punished for expressing your feelings. You were made fun of for showing emotion. Shame can make us hide our feelings, avoid conversations, turn anger inward instead of working through it. We get stuck, lonely, and sometimes believe we aren't worth the effort to change. 4. Cultural and social pressure. Anger doesn't only come from inside us. Sometimes it comes from society and culture. In many cultures, anger is seen as negative or dangerous, especially for certain groups. For example, men may be taught that showing sadness is weak, so they express pain through anger. Women may be told that being angry is unattractive or aggressive, so they stay quiet. Different cultures also have different rules about expressing emotion. In some places, it's normal to raise your voice and show strong feelings. In other places, people are expected to stay calm and polite no matter what. These messages shape how we respond to anger and how we feel about it in ourselves and others. All of these factors, perfectionism, self-doubt, shame, and cultural pressure, can create strong barriers. They make it harder to manage anger, even if you know the strategies. The good news is, once you understand these obstacles, you can start working around them. Awareness is the first step to taking control of your anger and your life. Barriers to emotional freedom. Even with the strategies we talked about, like pausing, breathing, or walking away, something deeper can hold us back. These are barriers that stop us from using our anger in a healthy way. They can make it hard to respond differently, even when we want to. Ask yourself, what stops me from handling anger better? Is it fear of being judged? Worry that I might lose control? Or maybe you've never seen anyone model healthy ways to express emotions. Maybe nobody ever told you, it's okay to feel angry. Your feelings are valid. Whatever the reason, remember this. Managing anger isn't about being perfect. It's about awareness and self-kindness. Self-compassion. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same care and patience you'd give a friend. If you make a mistake, pause and say, it's okay. I'm learning. I can try again next time. This simple mindset can break the cycle of shame and silence. Patience is important too. Real change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to unlearn old habits, build new, healthier ones. Some days you'll feel strong and clear. Other days you might fall back into old patterns. That's normal. What matters is that you keep showing up, keep trying, and keep learning. Reflection and growth. As we end today's discussion on anger management, let's take a moment to breathe and reflect. Here's what we covered. Anger is natural. It's part of being human, like joy, sadness, or fear. Anger itself isn't bad. What matters is how we understand and respond to it. Types of anger. Quick explosions versus slow-burning frustration. Biological response. The fight-or-flight reaction prepares us to defend ourselves, even in emotional situations. Is anger always bad?
No.
Anger can teach, warn, and protect us. Triggers. Stress, injustice, frustration, feeling ignored or misunderstood. Hidden emotions. Anger often hides fear, sadness, or insecurity. Cultural and personal history. These shape what makes us angry and how we express it. Cost of unmanaged anger. Can harm relationships, careers, and health. Responding versus reacting. Stopping, breathing, and reflecting prevents harm and promotes growth. Anger as a messenger. We also explored a new way to see anger. Anger isn't just a problem. It's a messenger. It signals when something is wrong or when a boundary has been crossed. With awareness, anger can guide us toward change, help us protect ourselves, and even improve our relationships. Key takeaways. Progress, not perfection. Every small step, pausing, breathing, reflecting, is training your emotional muscles. Self-awareness is power. Understanding your triggers and hidden emotions lets you respond wisely. Practice matters, like learning a skill or exercising. Emotional growth takes time and consistency. Healing is possible. Even if anger has hurt someone before, it's never too late to repair the damage with honesty, reflection, and care. Remember, you are not broken. You are human. Feeling anger doesn't make you weak. Responding thoughtfully and choosing your actions makes you strong. By practicing awareness, self-compassion, and simple strategies, you can turn anger from a problem into a teacher, guiding you to better relationships, emotional freedom, and inner peace. Reflecting on anger. Anger often has a message. Maybe it's showing us a boundary we need to set, or a truth we've been avoiding. It can point to what really matters to us. Our fairness, our respect, or our sense of being heard. We also talked about practical tools to manage anger.
Breathing technique.
Journaling. Walking away to cool down. Giving ourselves time before speaking. These strategies might seem small, but when practiced consistently, they can create big changes over time. Understanding the real blocks. Sometimes the reason we struggle with anger isn't the anger itself. It's deeper things inside us, like perfectionism, feeling we must always get it right, self-doubt, questioning whether we have the right to speak up, shame, believing something is wrong with us because we feel angry. Social and cultural messages can also make it harder to express anger or stay calm. Managing anger isn't just about controlling outward reactions. It's also about healing what's inside. A personal takeaway. For a long time, I believed being angry meant I was failing. Over the years, I've learned something important. Anger often shows up not because we're weak, but because we care. We care about fairness. We care about being heard. We care about being respected. When we listen to the deeper message behind our anger, we can grow from it, instead of just reacting. Your invitation. Here's a simple exercise you can try after this episode. Sit quietly for 5 to 10 minutes. You don't need music or a journal. Just breathe. Ask yourself, what does my anger usually try to tell me? Or, what was I really feeling the last time I got angry? Reflect. What could I do differently next time? If that feels too big, start small. Maybe next time you feel annoyed, just take one deep breath before speaking. That's one small step toward emotional clarity. Closing thoughts. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Anger isn't always an easy topic, but I hope this conversation helped you feel a little more understood. Feel a little more in control. Remember, this is a journey. It's okay to take it one day at a time. Be patient with yourself and keep learning. That's how real change happens. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might need it and follow Fluent English Journey for more episodes on personal growth, communication, confidence, and English learning. Next time, we'll talk about self-discipline, what it really means, how to build it without burning out, why it's more about kindness than control. Until then, take care of yourself and remember, progress, not perfection.